Top five, top five, top five.
So I'm talking back with another video. I'm Strange Wang. He is Nate. Today we're doing top 5 biopics in honor of Blonde coming. I shouldn't drink so much Dr. Pepper. Blonde coming out. Marilyn Monroe biopic. Maybe you should drink some caffeine and Dr. Pepper, you know what I'm saying? But we're doing biopics for Blonde. He'll tell you about social media and how we do our top 5s, and then we'll get into the list.
If you're scrolling down to the description box below, pop it open. You'll find links to our social media accounts. We also have a link to our coffee account and our Patreon account. And there's the thanks button right there on the YouTube page. So if you'd like to help support us financially, we'd really appreciate that. So thanks for even considering it. If you're not going to do that or even consider it, then subscribe because it's free and you still get to help us out.
Number 5 for me is going to be Amadeus. A film about Mozart and his life. The reason why it's not higher is because the format of it is different. It's unique. It's not your standard biopic. It's told from the side of someone who hates him. Mm-hmm. A peer, he hates how talented he is. So when he talks about Mozart, it's like an angel being sent down from the gods. And then he's like, fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying? So you get his life, his triumphs, his tragedies, and it's all from the perspective of the man that hates him the most. So it's an interesting twist on the biopic genre. It's usually used like straightforward, or this person, like they're fucking up their life. It's like, nah, this like devious asshole is fucking shit up for him, but he admires him so much and thinks he's a genius. So it's terrific. One of the best biopics ever made. One of the best movies ever made. Like top 100 for sure. I think easy. He hasn't seen it, but he should.
It's true.
Number preferences. These are our favorite biopics. Favorite biopics. Number 4 is going to be Malcolm X. Denzel Washington. Spike Lee. What a combination. The thing I love most about Spike Lee movies, and like why he's like top 5, top 10 favorite directors, is because I'm white.
Clearly! No debating!
It does such a good job breaking it down and putting you in that character's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why Denzel Washington love hanging out, dressing differently, and trying to get white women in bed. I understood that. And then I understood the change. And the character arc is so like meticulously laid out that you understand it. You understand why he's this person, now this person, and it has weight and effectiveness when the Muslim religion turns its back on him and he's still trying to do what he thinks right for his family. And the weight of it all is just like, it's a fucking experience, you know? You don't get a lot of mini movies like that, and I'm from the uneducated South, and we didn't learn about Malcolm X. It was all about Martin Luther King. You only got 28 days in a month. You know what I'm saying?
I learned about Malcolm X in high school. It was very briefly. It was like he was part of the same chapter as like a civil rights movement. So he maybe had like 4 or 5 paragraphs.
Well,
but
anyways, not enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. For like, sure. Not enough.
How it was explained, he's evil. Martin Luther King Jr. is good. He's violent. He's not.
That is how
that's how it's portrayed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not how it is. Very good history lesson on top of a well-made good film. So you haven't seen it either.
Nope.
This could be an interesting list. Watch it. Those two. Definitely watch them.
Yeah. So number 5 for me, again, favorites, not necessarily the best. Number 5 for me is The Fighter. I think it's just an incredibly well-made movie. I think this is like peak Wahlberg. Like I think this is easily my favorite Wahlberg movie. It's a perfect balance of like him being able to say the goofy shit that he likes to say, but it's still seeming like serious enough. And he has an incredible actor next to him in Christian Bale, who just 100% committed to playing that role. And so like when you watch the footage at the end of the movies of like the real life brothers compared to like how Wahlberg and Bale did it, they just absolutely nailed it. It's also just like a really compelling, like every boxing movie ever is an underdog story. And this one just really gets you to like buy into the fact that this was real Like, this is a real life underdog story that really happened. But in real life, you don't get to see things unfold the way that you get to see it in a 2-hour long movie. So that's it's just really fun for me. I like boxing. I like that story.
I would like to argue he was held up by 2 crutches during the whole movie. Because if he's not being held up by Christian Bale, Amy Adams got him on the other end.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess it's just like if you put Mark Wahlberg around like talented, serious actors, which Amy Adams actually is pretty good at, like some of the comedic stuff that she's done too.
Yeah.
But then he could be really, really good in a movie.
he's a really good role player if you put him around talent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like,
It's true. Number 4 is going to be Zemeckis. Don't even know if I want to. I don't even know if I should bother.
Goodfellas.
I don't even know if I should bother saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I know we're going to talk about it when we get to yours.
Yeah.
Just to preface it, the only reason Goodfellas is at number 4 for me is because
It's favorites. I understand.
it is. Well, it's not even necessarily favorites. It is more. It is more loosely based on the true story than some of these. Like, all of these are loosely based because they're movies and you got to make them interesting. But it is the most out of everything on my list. It is the most loosely based.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Like,
but still a
talk about
biopic.
that.
Yeah.
Again, prefaces favorites. Yes, Malcolm X's number 4, but number 3 is Private Parts. It's Howard Stern's biopic.
Oh,
Oh, no, the fuck you didn't. Oh, I know.
And it's incredibly
who plays Howard Stern?
Howard Stern.
He plays himself in his own biopic.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Sounds like a
Late
documentary.
90s. No, it's like late 80s, 90s. He's not as outrageous as he
Ends up being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just a movie about a weird Jewish guy who has a dream, an idea of what he wants to be and where he wants to go. And he's just lasered focused on success and the things that come in with success and whatnot. It's a really good movie. And it's also very interesting because I watched it 2-3 years ago. Radio's dead. So to learn so much about radio through this was very interesting and compelling because we're not getting any movies about radio anytime soon. They
No.
might remake radio.
Well, I
but
mean,
that's a football player.
Yeah, and if we do, it is going to be like some nostalgic kind of story about something that happened in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like this. And it's just funny, better or worse. I don't know if I should say this. Howard Stern's fucking hilarious.
He is funny.
I went through this period before I watched this movie of like getting little clips over some drunk. This is how it started. Some drunk guy went up to Brian and I and was like, bruh, you know Beetlejuice? He was like, Michael Keaton. He's like, nah, the little guy on Howard Stern. And I was like, the guy that Jeff Jarrett hit with a guitar? This is back in WCW. But anyways, I looked up the best of Beetlejuice and then Howard Stern this, and now he has girls riding on electric things, getting off in lunacy. But went on a huge Howard Stern kick. So I watched this and I was like, this is nothing like a lot of stuff he does, but great movie, very relatable. Like, you could do that scene for scene, made that same movie about me doing YouTube or anyone doing YouTube, and it would be just as good. So I think that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah.
It translates. Number 2 is going to be Ray. Are we going to have one Zemeckis? Damn, that's a lot of biopics out there. Ray is...
Man, I'm disappointed. You keep going, but...
Ray is so fucking good. My opinion, the best musical biopic of all time.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Him being blind, I think that's the compelling part. And Jamie Foxx's performance is just out of this world. Jamie Foxx in this movie is
Tremendous performance.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
easily one of the best performances of all time. Story, the tragedy, the heartbreak, and then going into that, and then him fucking up his own life. It puts you in a weird situation when you're watching this film because you want to feel bad for him, but he's a shithead. So there's a very compelling movie at times as well. And it's just a fantastic watch.
Yeah. My number 3. I'm deeply saddened that it was not on your list, but my number 3 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
I'll tell you why. When it comes to biopics, I personally prefer my biopics straightforward, a long period of someone's life. And I feel like if we're looking at biopics, that's not even a biopic for Mr. Rogers. It's for the other guy.
Sure. That's what I was going to say.
But I don't know. Love the movie though.
Yeah.
Top 10.
So anyways, bad call not putting it on your list. But
What's your opinion?
yeah, this is great because it is like a much shorter period of time versus like a life-spanning thing like a lot of biopics are. But it's really kind of 2 biopics in one because not unlike Amadeus, it is a story about Mr. Rogers told from the perspective of someone who does not buy his like feel-good bullshit and then ultimately ends up being like completely changed because in Mr. Rogers it was actually super genuine and unrelenting. To the point to where even though it drove this guy crazy, he literally like could not stop going back to it, right? And I think that's just incredibly powerful. And my favorite things about biopics is you are telling a slightly fantastical version of a real life person's story. And this one is really the only one on my list where like someone who is just as good as someone in this world can possibly be, like genuinely impacting and changing someone's life for the better. And that also happened in real life. So I love that. And then number 2 for me is going to be Moneyball. Again, I guess like...
It's the same thing. Same reason.
Yeah, I mean, it covers like several years. Wait, so are you arguing whether it's a biopic or not? Or did you just set a rule for yourself?
I prefer biopics. That's a long character arc. Like, I want to see them young and understand why they're this way. To see them grow old.
So do you think that movies like that are better?
I think they're better biopics because of the length. If we're talking about flat out movies, that's a hard fucking decision because Moneyball.
What was my question?
Amazing.
You like.
I'm not saying that they're bad movies or they're not biopics. I personally like to see why they act this way. And you kind of get that in flashback scenes in Moneyball.
You absolutely get that in flashback scenes in Moneyball.
But it's not as in-depth as it is in
Moneyball
or something like that.
Moneyball is also really simple. He loves the game.
Yes.
Like, that is his motivation. He fucking loves this game. And he doesn't care about... like
What's your number 1?
He got... Huh?
Number 1?
Number 2.
Oh, okay.
So, like, he got downplayed, and he ultimately got injured, and that's why it didn't work out. But he got downplayed in his career because of unconventional... because he was stuck in a very conventional system, right? And so, therefore, this idea of being unconventional to win worked for him, and it ended up changing the game forever. I don't even care about the MLB. I don't care about Major League Baseball. I don't watch it. We were at the beach like a little over a month ago, and
that was like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
The fucking, your time is so bad.
Yeah, whatever. We were at the beach this year with 2 of our friends who love baseball, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I don't even think that I could name 10 active MLB players. And then we tried to name 10 active MLB players, and I don't know if we even actually did it or not.
It got to a point where we both had to.
Yeah.
And I edited a sports podcast, and we still couldn't do it.
Yeah. That's how much I don't care about the MLB. But this movie is absolutely incredible, because it's just like, yeah, you can do shit in unconventional ways at a very high level and be successful. And I appreciate that. He's also just an incredibly interesting character.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I would, if I had to put a name on it, I don't know if there is a name for it, period in life biopics.
Sure.
where I prefer lifelong biopics. If that makes more sense.
I feel like you get more substance sometimes from a period of life biopic because you get more detail in a shorter amount of time versus having to spread smaller amounts of detail through an entire life.
Yeah.
But I like both of them.
Yeah, me too. I feel like those feel more like movies. You know what I'm saying? Like if
I wanted to watch a documentary, I'd watch a documentary.
No, like if you didn't know that was a true story and someone wrote that as a movie, original idea, you could get away with that.
I'm making myself laugh because I was like, yeah, but you know it's a real story because at the end of every biopic, they always give you the little title cards that tell you what happened after. And then I remembered Patch Adams, which is a completely made up movie where they do that. Anyways, I'm just like, why? Why? This is stupid.
So there you go.
Also, not a very good movie. I don't like Patch Adams.
I'm curious to see what your number one is. I'm trying to rack my brain and I can't think of anything off the top. We need a James Stewart biopic. I see him up there. We need one.
I feel like his life just wasn't that interesting.
What are you talking about? He was acting. He went to war, flew planes, shot motherfuckers.
That was every actor during that period.
And then came back and worked with Hitchcock and made some of the most greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, unless you just had some like really specific James Stewart war story, which I'm sure they exist, that like added tension.
He has a Medal of Honor.
They were giving those things out like candy back then.
I don't know anything about it, but it sounded nice. But my number one is Goodfellas. Speaking about the war, Henry Hill went to war and it's completely cut out of this movie. You wouldn't know that unless you researched it. But what I love about this and why it's my favorite biopic, because it gives you the meat and potatoes. You get what you need, and that proves a point. And the editing style. I think this is Martin Scorsese's best film because of the editing style. How it pauses on certain moments, and you have the greatest voiceover of all of cinema with Henry Hill talking about his life. And it just makes those, like, you instantly know this was a pivotal point in this man's life where we can skip a few years and it not be a big deal. And just the freeze frames and all that makes you understand why an Italian kid during this time period with not a lot of money sees this lifestyle and is like, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. It makes total sense. You get Henry Hill later with De Niro, Pesci, and it's like, you want to talk about fucking an all-star team? That's an Italian all-star team. You got one of the greatest directors of all time behind the camera, two of the greatest actors at that point in time beside Ray Liotta acting with him. So when it comes to the technical stuff, the acting, the film being well made and believable, it hits all the boxes. But the story of him, so deep down, there's kind of a nice guy there, and then it gets more into the life, it goes away, and then at the end, he's just like, fuck, I hate my life. And there's nothing I would give up everything just to like relive it and be a mobster again. And it's interesting because there's no character arc there. He didn't learn his lesson. If he saw someone hurt, or if he had to murder an innocent guy again just for disrespecting his friend, mm-hmm. he would still probably have those doubts and those feelings of, man, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, there's a small conscience there throughout the film.
Disagree.
How?
I think he's selfish and like self-preserving.
No, you can be both. People are complex. When he sees that fucking guy gets beats up and his head's thrown in the fucking pizza thing, don't waste the fucking towels on him. He immediately runs to him and tries to help him. When he sees Billy Bats getting fucking murdered, he's like, we shouldn't be doing this.
Because he doesn't want to get in trouble.
This isn't the right way to go about this. But see, this is the way, like, the part of that breaks it away from me is he can't handle the smell and stuff like that. And they're making fun of him. like you're not made for this life.
Yeah, he's soft.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like there's a bit of his conscience is at like 50%, and then it goes to 25% to like 5%. Like it declines for sure. But there's still moments in there. And because it's Scorsese, he makes sure you feel that and it peaks out. So there is a bit of, fuck, I shouldn't like this guy, but I kind of like him throughout the film. For me personally. And that's why it's my favorite biopic.
Yeah, excellent movie. It's very good. I agree. I think it's Scorsese's best.
Ease. The greatest of ease.
That's right.
One of the things I love about it, because I just watched this a couple of weeks ago. I just had it in the background while I was working. But I had also recently listened to a podcast where they talked about it, and they like just kind of in passing mentioned a point, and when I rewatched the movie, I was kind of thinking about that. So it's one of my favorite things about the movie, and it's also something that like one of the reasons it's lower on my list is because it also makes it less biopic-y. But Henry is like the quintessential unreliable narrator because he is a gangster. You cannot truly trust what he is telling you because it is solely from his perspective, and he is corrupt. And so I really like that about the movie because it's just like you are getting the worst side of the story, and that makes it really interesting. So it's like you could trust that he is really feeling what he says that he feels, but like outside of that, it's like you are not going to get an accurate view of what is really happening because of who you are getting the view from. And that is probably pretty close to how the real Henry Hill would have been thinking and acting in that situation. But yeah, good stuff. Watching his rise, he hits a sweet spot at one point.
Yeah.
Like he's just kind of the bruiser. He gets like he's running the restaurant. Like he's just roughing guys up for a little bit of money. And if he only could have just stayed right there, he would have been fine. But because his buddies are climbing higher, he kind of gets like pulled. He just slowly gets pulled into more and more things.
He went to jail.
Witnesses more and more things. Goes to jail.
That's where it goes down. He goes to jail and gets
He starts selling dope. Yeah, and so good movie.
But I think that's personally why I like the movie so much, is because it is from his perspective, and I think that adds charm that a lot of biopics don't have. Like, I can find this person charming, but it makes the movie charming.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's why it's my personal favorite.
Yeah.
What's your number one?
My number one is a movie you still haven't seen, which like made me almost not want to put it on my list because I feel like it's going to be so overhyped for you at this point that when you do finally watch it, you're going to be like, I don't get it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's The Social Network.
Oh, I thought he was going to say Passion of the Christ.
Oh, technically a biopic. Never really thought about that.
I feel like I've got it in my head to a certain point now where it's like I'm so disinterested in watching it because it's been hyped up so much.
Yeah.
And like I don't give a fuck about Facebook.
Yeah.
Like the biggest
we don't care about the MLB.
The biggest selling point to me is fuck. Who wrote it?
Fincher. Well, Fincher directed it, and Sorkin wrote it.
Sorkin.
Yeah.
That's the biggest selling point for me.
Yeah.
And speaking of Moneyball, the only reason why I watch Moneyball is because of Brad Pitt. So there's a little crack in the door that this is why I want to go in there.
You know who wrote Moneyball?
Aaron Sorkin, exactly. And that's why.
Yeah.
That was the movie that like really opened Sorkin for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, I need to go see this, and this.
You love Chicago 7 too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't handle the truth.
Different.
Few Good Men, fucking
different courtroom drama, but he wrote
Aaron
I know.
Sorkin,
yeah. Yeah, dude's incredible. But yeah, Social Network. Here's my thing. I feel the same feelings that you felt. I don't care about Facebook. It could crash tomorrow, and I would be like, oh darn, whatever. I don't care. I don't care about coding. I don't care about prestigious Harvard educations. Like, I don't care about any of that. And that's what this movie is about. It's about some nerdy kids who invented some stuff. They created a really unhealthy culture and society that we now live in. And they were all shitty.
You think MySpace would have got us that level?
No, because Tom was a good guy. That's the difference. Mark Zuckerberg, he's reclusive. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's like snooty and pretentious. Tom was everybody's first MySpace friend. And I think that's really how he was as a person. But I don't know. MySpace also had the top 8 though, and that could ruin some friendships. But yeah, like to take a movie that is about a person who I don't like, who I think is a representation of a lot of problems in our society, and the thing that he created ultimately ended up being the source of a major problem in our society. Big problems and small problems. All the social effects that social media has had on like young people and throughout is bad enough on its own. But even just small personal problems. Because when the old ladies that I used to work with figured out what Farmville was,
gross.
Like, the amount of freaking Farmville invites that I got from all these old ladies that I worked with. Just please stop. It's your fault, Mark Zuckerberg. Why? Anyways, it's incredibly interesting. I think that's part of why you would like it, because this movie is about a bunch of double-crossing shysters. Like,
it's got a cannibal in it, though. Was that Arnie Hammer? Isn't he in this?
Alleged.
Isn't he a cannibal?
No, he has cannibalistic thoughts.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes. Look at you.
Aaron Sorkin, David Fincher. Like, anytime those two want to make a movie together, I'm absolutely going to be there for it.
Should have wrote Mank. It would have been better.
Probably.
Another biopic. But tell us down below in the comment section your thoughts and opinions. What's your top 5 favorite biopics? Scroll back up, hit the like button, share the video. And subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich